or tuning in the sun. This is TFM. Get ready to rock. From AM to PM. Come on. Let's talk.
TFM 95.4.
Let's talk.
Live on TFM and the TFM Facebook page. This is the live feed of TTV. Let's talk.
Hello and welcome to Outline. These are the headlines for today. His Majesty issued 2 royal decrees. Oman Air awards free upgrades to guests. Sultan Qaboos Sports Complex in Bosher undergoes overhaul. Those are the headlines for today, and we also have our special segment called Fighting COVID with Madiha Asif. Stay tuned for that, but for now, let's take a look at the weather. Before we move on to weather, here is our fact for the day. Do you know how much water there is in snow? Well, the exact amount of water in snow can vary quite significantly. So depending on how the snow is formed, the average general, every 12 centimeter of snow can provide 1 centimeter of water. That is our fact for the day. Now let's move on to weather. An alert has been issued by Oman Meteorology and Civil Aviation Authorities saying that there will be a reduction in visibility due to the fog formation, and there will be mainly clear skies over the rest of the Sultanate with chances of early morning to late night low-level clouds or fog patches over the parts of Al-Wusta, South Al-Sharqiyya, Al-Buremi, and Al-Dhahira. With that, let's take a look at how the weather will be like in all the governorates. Muscat will be partly cloudy, temperatures between 27 to 18 degrees Celsius. Musandam will be sunny, temperatures between 24 to 16 degrees Celsius. North Al-Batina will be partly cloudy, temperatures between 26 to 18 degrees Celsius. South Al-Batina will be partly cloudy, temperatures between 29 to 18 degrees Celsius. Al-Buremi will be partly cloudy, temperatures between 29 to 18 degrees Celsius. Al-Dhahira will be partly cloudy, temperatures between 29 to 17 degrees Celsius. Al-Dakhiliya will be sunny, temperatures between 29 to 17 degrees Celsius. North Al-Sharqiyya will be sunny, temperatures between 28 to 15 degrees Celsius. South Al-Sharqiyya will be partly cloudy, temperatures between 27 to 16 degrees Celsius. Al-Wusta will be partly cloudy, temperatures between 28 to 15 degrees Celsius. And the Far will also be partly cloudy, temperatures between 26 to 15 degrees Celsius. Hello and welcome to Outline. Here are the local stories for today. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq has issued 2 royal decrees, whereas Decree number 10/2021 appointed Dr. Mohammed bin Nasser al-Za'abi as Secretary General at the Ministry of Defense with the rank of Minister. Royal Decree number 11/2021 provides for military promotions and appointments as follows. Major General Abdullah bin Khamis bin Abdullah al-Raisi is promoted to the rank of Lieutenant General and appointed Chief of Staff of the Sultan's Armed Forces. Air Commodore Khamis bin Hamad bin Sultan al-Ghafri is promoted to the rank of Major General and appointed Commander of the Royal Oman Air Force. Commodore Saif bin Nasser al-Rahbi is promoted to the rank of Major General and appointed Commander of the Royal Navy of Oman. Saleh bin Yahya bin Masoud al-Maskari is promoted to the rank of Major General and appointed as an instructor for the defense of college. Oman Air said in a statement, in celebration of the anniversary of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq's assuming leadership in the Sultanate, over 250 Oman Air guests have been awarded free upgrades, lounge access, and extra baggage allowance, and the celebration continues for 5 more days. The Ministry of Culture, Sports and Youth, represented by the Department of Sultan Qaboos Sports Complex in Bosher, has executed a number of developments and improvement projects and works at the complex as part of the ministry's efforts for development of sports facilities in the Sultanate. Saoud bin Badr Ambu Saidi, Director of the Department of Sultan Qaboos Sports Complex, said that the main football ground at the complex was ready to host the international matches as lighting system has been replaced, and the necessary improvements have been made in accordance with the international specifications. He said that the improvements cover the physical fitness lounge, increasing the number of sports machines and equipment, installing of the new lighting system at the main stadium of the complex, and reopening a women's sports center which would receive female participants from this month in addition to other improvements. Those are the local stories for today, and now let's take a look at the COVID-19 updates. The Ministry of Health has announced the registration of 2 new COVID-19 deaths, taking the total death toll to 1,514. The ministry has extended its deepest condolences to the families of the deceased. The Ministry of Health has also announced the registration of 221 new COVID-19 cases, taking the total cases in the Sultanate to 132,011. In the past 24 hours, there have been 146 recoveries, and a total number of recoveries now stands at 124,213. To talk further more about fighting COVID, let's go to TTV Studio 2 with Madiha Asif.
Yes, thank you, Maitha, and welcome to Fighting COVID Studio, where I'll be keeping you abreast with all the changes and developments in regards to the COVID in the Sultanate. As you all remember, last month we had Dr. Ziana joining us. That was our first show with COVID, Fighting COVID, where she told us about the recently distributed Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine that is mainly targeted for the certain group in the Sultanate, which includes elderly people who are 65 or above that age, those with diabetes, those with chronic diseases, lung diseases, and people with asthma, and as well as health workers that are working on the front line. Now, talking about the vaccines itself, it was noted during that time that the numbers of vaccines received were unfortunately not the amount that was expected. In fact, the Sultanate received the first doses, about 15,600, that would cover about 7,500 individuals. However, the Sultanate has so far, as of yesterday, received 38,900 doses, which means additional 23,300 doses of the booked 370,000 Pfizer coronavirus vaccines have been received in the Sultanate, and this was according to Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al Saidi, who's the Minister of Health in the Sultanate. He, in fact, held a press conference with the Supreme Committee on Thursday. Now, you all know that Supreme Committee is in charge to deal with coronavirus developments in the Sultanate. And that time, he said that Oman has reserved more than 1 million doses of the vaccine through the International Vaccine Federation. And they hope that a part of it will be allocated in the future to the private sector for those who wish to travel and other groups. But first, the priority will be given to the targeted groups, as I mentioned earlier, that includes the elderly people with age 65 or above, those who have asthma, chronic diseases, lung diseases, kidney failure, and of course the healthcare workers. Altogether, according to His Excellency, the total number of vaccinated people in the Sultanate has reached 24,773. The Muscat Governorate, he said, has in fact covered 100% of the coverage of the targeted group, and other governorates have also seen a large number of people turning out, and a good percentage of coverage has been done in the rest of the governorates as well. Now, altogether, this represents 82% of people in target groups in their first dose of vaccine. And as you all know that yesterday, the Ministry of Health has begun second dose of vaccine in the Sultanate, where His Excellency Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al Saidi, the Minister of Health, has received his second shot as well. Now, there were a lot of rumors and people were in ambiguity of receiving the doses. He assured once again that there are no side effects, there are are no harmful side effects that people should be worried about, that people should be fearful, because as of now, he hasn't received any kind of side effects, nor he has received any complaints from the people who have received their first doses. In fact, people have already turned up for the second dose as well. Now, talking on the same subject of the vaccines, and as per the World Health Organization, there are 3 COVID-19 vaccines for distribution with certain national regulatory authorities that have authorized the use. However, none have yet received WHO emergency use listing, which is commonly known as EUL and PQ authorization, but the organization expects an assessment on the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine and for some other candidates soon thereafter. Last studies of 5 vaccine candidates' efficacy and safety results, according to WHO once again, including these 3 and for Moderna and AstraZeneca, have been publicly reported through press releases, but only 1 out of all these 5, which is AstraZeneca, has published results in the peer-reviewed literature. Now, WHO expects more such reports in the near future, and it is likely that additional candidates will be submitted to regulatory authorities for approval. There are many potential COVID-19 vaccine candidates currently in development, says the World Health Organization. They also mentioned on their website, if you go on their website, you'll see that once vaccines are demonstrated to be safe and efficacious, they must be approved by national regulators, manufactured to exacting standards, and distributed. WHO is working with partners very closely around the world to help coordinate key steps in this process, including to facilitate equitable access to safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines for the billions of people who will definitely need them. According to the health body, there are currently more than 50 COVID-19 vaccine candidates in trials. WHO is working in collaboration with scientists, business, and global health organization through the access to COVID tools, which is commonly known as ACT Accelerator, to speed up the pandemic response. According to them, when a safe and effective vaccine is found, a COVAX, which is led by WHO, Gavi, and CEPI, will facilitate the equitable access and distribution of these vaccines to protect people in all countries. People most at risk will be prioritized. Of course, that is also one of the agendas of the vaccine dosage in the Sultanate, and this has been taken up by the other countries who have received the vaccine. According to Health Minister, 42 countries have received these vaccines, and majority of these 42 countries are abiding by this rule of getting the dosage to the vulnerable target audience in the country. Now, before we get into the details of the leading vaccines across the globe, let's take a short commercial break.
Oman's largest online supermarket now has no minimum order limit. From grocery to household items, Rafiq has everything that you want. Enjoy worry-free shopping with over 8,000 products to choose from and get it delivered straight to your doorstep. Rafiq, you order, we deliver.
Welcome back to Fighting COVID, and as I mentioned earlier before going on the short commercial break, that we'll be looking at the leading vaccines around the world and see where exactly they are as of today. Now, before I get into the details, please note that the vaccines typically require years of research and clinical trials before reaching the clinic or to the targeted group in the country, as quoted by Dr. Ziana. But in 2020, scientists around the world embarked on a race to produce safe and effective coronavirus vaccines in record time, because it was the necessity and it was a dire need for the people, because the coronavirus has claimed billions of lives in altogether across the globe. So according to one of the articles that I stumbled upon while researching about COVID-19, how it's, working around the globe, not just in the Sultanate, I saw this article on New York Times by Carl Zimmer, Jonathan Coram, and Sue Lee Wee, that researchers are currently testing 68 vaccines in clinical trials on humans, and 20 have already reached the final stages of testing. Now, at least 90 preclinical vaccines are under active investigation on animals according to these three. As you can see flashing on your screen that there are different phases and different protocol that needs to be followed in terms of vaccine. We have phase 1, we have phase 2, we have phase 3, we have limited, approved and abandoned. But if you see going back on the first slide in phase 1, we have 41 vaccines testing safety and dosage. In phase 2, you will see 22 vaccines in expanded safety trials. In phase 3, you will see 20 vaccines in large-scale efficacy tests. In limited, you will see 8 vaccines in early or limited use. In approved and abandoned, you will see 2 vaccines approved for full use. However, there is 1 vaccine that has been abandoned after trials. There has been new additions and developments earlier this month. I'm going to start with the latest development that happened on January 14 is that the Israel Institute for Biological Research moved to phase 2. On January 13, Brazil announces Sinovac vaccine has an efficacy of just over 50%. On January 12, California-based Arcturus moves to phase 2, and on the same day, Canada's VIDO enters phase 1 and 2. January 6th, we saw the European Union authorizing Moderna's vaccine. On January 4th, once again, Israel authorizes Moderna's vaccine. On January 4th, Taiwan's Medigen moves to phase 2, and on the same day, Mexico authorized the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. On January 3rd, we saw India authorizing a vaccine from Bharat Biotech, and on the same day, India and Argentina authorized the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. And lastly, on the same day, India's Zydus Cadila moves to phase 3. As you all can see on your screens right now that we have another table that is talking about the leading vaccines across the globe, and we have a column for developer, how it works, the phase they are in currently, and the status. So I'm not going to go in the detail of the column where it says how it works because that's the type of the component that is being used for the vaccine. I'll start with the developer and go through the status and the stages that the certain vaccine is currently. So the first we have Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine on our screen, and it is in phase 3. And the status currently that this vaccine holds is it has been approved in Saudi Arabia and other countries, as well as it has gotten an emergency use in US, European Union, and other countries. Secondly, you see Moderna, which is also in phase 3. And the status for this vaccine is that it has been approved to use in terms of emergency usage in US, European Union, and other countries as well. Now we have third CanSino, which is also in phase 3. This has been given a limited use in China. We have Gamaleya that is also in phase 3, and it has been given an early use in Russia, as well as emergency use in Belarus and other countries. Then we have Johnson & Johnson, which is also in phase 3, but it hasn't been updated, the status where it currently stands and what countries or which countries are going to use it. Then we have Oxford AstraZeneca, which is also in phase 3. The status for this vaccine is that it has been given an emergency approval use in Britain, India, and other countries. And then we have Novavax, which is also in phase 3. And once again, there is no status update on this particular vaccine. We have Vector Institute that is also in phase 3, and it has been given approval for early use in Russia. Then we have Sinopharm, which is also in phase 3, and it has been approved to be used in UAE, Bahrain, and also given limited usage in Egypt. Then we have Sinopharm Wuhan, who's also in phase 3. Limited use in China and UAE has been given to this particular vaccine. Then coming to Sinovac, which is also in phase 3, limited use in China and Indonesia has been given to this particular vaccine. Lastly, you'll see we have Bharat BioNTech, which is also in phase 3, and limited emergency use, in fact, has been given to this particular vaccine in India. Now, I'm type where I said how it works has inactivated until certain vaccines. Please do not be confused by the word inactivated, because that's the type of vaccine, the component side that I said earlier, it is used to work with that vaccine. I'll just tell you in detail or just very briefly that inactivated stands that vaccines use the killed version of the germ that causes a disease. Inactivated vaccines usually don't provide immunity, which is protection, that's as strong as live vaccines. So that's the type that is being used for these particular vaccines that showed inactivated. Also, I'm sure that you may wonder the testing process of all these vaccines or vaccines in general that I'll be telling you after this very quick commercial break.
Oman's largest online supermarket now has no minimum order limit. From grocery to household items, Rafiq has everything that you want. Enjoy worry-free shopping with over 8,000 products to choose from and get it delivered straight to your doorstep. Rafiq, you order, we deliver.
Welcome back to Fighting COVID Studio. And yes, we will be talking about the stages and the process vaccines are supposed to go through before it comes for the usage of humans. Now, starting with the first stage, that is the preclinical testing, scientists test a new vaccine on cells and then give it to animals such as mice or monkeys to see if it produces an immune response. Once this is done, it goes to stage 2, which is known as phase 1 safety trials. Now, in this phase 1, scientists give the vaccine to a small number of people to test safety and dosage, as well as to confirm that it stimulates the immune system. After crossing this stage, it goes to phase 2, which is expanded trials. In expanded trials, scientists give the vaccine to hundreds of people to split into groups, such as children and the elderly, to see if the vaccine acts differently in them. These trials further the test of the vaccine safety. And after that, we come to phase 3, which is efficacy trials. In this efficacy trials, we see scientists give the vaccine to thousands of people and wait to see how many become infected compared with volunteers who received a placebo. Now, these trials can determine if the vaccine protects against the coronavirus, measuring what's known as the efficacy rate. Now, phase 3 trials are also large enough to reveal evidence of relatively rare side effects. Once you cross the phase 3, which is efficacy trials, you step into early or limited approval stage. In this early and limited approval stage, what scientists do is that Britain and other countries have begun giving emergency authorization to vaccines based on preliminary evidence that they are safe and effective. China and Russia, on the other hand, have authorized vaccines without waiting for the results of phase 3 trials, which experts say has a serious risk. After this stage, you go directly to approval stage. In approval stage, what happens is that the regulators review the complete trial results and plans for a vaccine's manufacturing and decide whether to give it full approval or not. After this stage, you go into combined phase. Now, combined phase consists of one way to accelerate vaccine development is to combine phases. Some vaccines are now in phase 1 or 2 trials, for example, which this tracker would count as both phase 1 and phase 2. Lastly, we have the stage of paused or abandoned. If you remember earlier in the show when we were showing you the table, there was phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and there was also limited and abandoned. So that abandoned stage is when the investigators worrying symptoms in volunteers, they can pause the trial. After investigation, the trial may resume or be abandoned completely. This was all from our Fighting COVID studio today. I hope you learned and you understood how the vaccines go through the trial and then the clinical phase, and then it's all ready and safe for us humans to utilize. Going back to you, Maitha.
Thank you, Madiha. That's all we have for you today. Tune in again tomorrow at the same time for more midday update. And thank you for watching TTV.
You've just heard the live feed from the TTV studios on TFM 95.4. Let's talk.